The forest was a place of mystery and danger, with towering trees that blocked out the sun and thick underbrush that concealed many secrets. The villagers rarely ventured there, fearing the unknown creatures and spirits said to dwell within. It was in this unforgiving place that the baby girl was left, abandoned and alone. As night fell, the temperature dropped and the baby's cries grew louder, echoing through the forest. In the peaceful village of Nkwele, Urena was known for her beauty and kindness. She had long flowing hair and a radiant smile that could light up any room. Urena's gentle nature made her loved by all who knew her. She was married to Obie, a tall and strong farmer who was very hardworking and was very handsome. Their marriage was the envy of the village, as they were not only partners in life but also in work. Every morning, Obie would wake up early to tend to his farms. He grew yams, vegetables, and other crops that thrived under his care. Obie's dedication to his farm was evident in the large green fields that surrounded their home. After a long day of work, he would bring the fresh produce to Urena, who would then take them to the market to sell. At the market, Urena's stall was very busy. Villagers preferred to buy from her because they knew her produce was one of the highest quality. She treated every customer with warmth and respect, often giving a little extra to those in need. Urena's kindness and beauty made her a beloved figure in the community. In the evenings, Obie and Urena would sit together under the stars, talking about their dreams and plans for the future. They hoped to have children and build a prosperous life together. Their love for each other was evident in the way they laughed, supported, and cared for one another. One sunny afternoon, Urena was at the market arranging her vegetables when she felt a strange sensation in her body. She smiled to herself, suspecting what it might be. When she returned home that evening, she found Obie sitting on their porch, tired and happy from a very long day of work. "Obie," Urena called softly. Obie looked up and saw the radiant smile on her face. "Yes, my love." "I have something to tell you," she said, her eyes sparkling. Obie stood up, curiosity and concern etched on his face. "What is it, Urena?" he asked. She took a deep breath and placed a gentle hand on her stomach. "Obie, I am pregnant," she said with a warm smile. For a moment, Obie was speechless. Then his face broke into the widest grin. He rushed to Urena and lifted her off her feet, spinning her around in joy. "This is a wonderful news, Urena. I will work even harder for our family, for you and for our unborn child," he said, his eyes shining with excitement. Urena laughed, feeling a wave of happiness wash over her. "We are going to be parents, Obie," she whispered, her voice filled with emotions. As they stood there holding each other close, they knew that this new chapter in their lives would be filled with joy and challenges. Obie's dedication to his farm bore fruit, and his fields flourished with life. Every morning, he would rise before the dawn, tending to his crops with care and precision. His hard work and knowledge of farming paid off, and soon his farm produced a bountiful harvest. This season, the yam were particularly large and healthy, their golden brown skins shining in the sunlight. One morning, Obie decided to harvest the yams. He carefully tugged them out of the soil, feeling a sense of pride as he loaded them into his cart. Full of joy, he began the journey back home, eager to show Urena the fruits of his labor. As he walked along the narrow path that led to the village, he hummed a cheerful tune. However, his happiness was short-lived. As he was approaching the village, a man named Chuki stepped out from behind a tree, blocking his path. Chukwudi was known for his envious nature and was always looking for ways to bring down others. "Where did you get those yams?" Chukwudi demanded, his eyes narrowing suspiciously. Obi, taken aback by the sudden confrontation, replied calmly, "These yams are from my farm, Chukwudi." Chukwudi shook his head angrily. "Liar! These yams are stolen from my farm." Obi was shocked and confused. "No, these yams are from my farm," he repeated, his voice firm but calm. Chukwudi, unwilling to listen, raised an alarm. "Thief! Thief!" he shouted at the top of his lungs. Within moments, a crowd of villagers gathered around them. The people of Nkweli, though generally kind-hearted, were quick to judge when it came to matters of theft because they had had repeated occurrences of theft. Many of them had always been envious of Obi's success and saw this as an opportunity to bring him down. "Thief!" they echoed Chukwudi's accusations, their voice filled with anger and distrust. Without giving Obi a chance to explain, the villagers began to beat him. He tried to shield himself from the blows, but there were too many. "Please listen to me," Obi pleaded, his voice barely audible over the commotions. "These yams are from my farm. I am not a thief. Please," he begged. But his words fell on deaf ears. The villagers, blinded by their envy and rage, dragged him to the village council. Obi's heart sank as he was forced into the small dimly lit room where the council elders sat in judgment. The head of the council, an elderly man named Eze, looked at Obi with disappointment. "Obi, you have been accused of stealing. What do you have to say for yourself?" Obi, bruised and bleeding, stood tall and spoke with as much dignity as he could muster. "Chief Eze, these yams are from my farm. I have worked hard to grow them. I am not a thief." But before he could continue, Chukwudi interrupted. "He lies. My farm has been raided and these yams were stolen from me. Some villagers were witnesses to this." The villagers standing outside the council chambers continued to shout accusations. "Punish him! He must pay for his crime. He is a thief." Eze raised his hand for silence. "Enough. We will deliberate and decide his fate." Despite Obi's pleas and attempts to defend himself, the council elders were influenced by the angry mob outside. They made their decision quickly. "Obi, you will be imprisoned until we can investigate further," Eze declared. Obi's heart sank as he was led away to the village prison. He glanced back at the crowd, hoping to see a sympathetic face, but all he saw were cold, accusing eyes. As the heavy wooden door of the prison closed behind him, Obi could only think of Urena and their unborn child. He prayed silently, hoping for a miracle that would prove his innocence and reunite him with his family. Ifeoma, Urena's close friend, was at her stall in the market when she heard of the news about Obi. Her heart pounded as she ran through the crowd, dodging people and stalls. She knew she had to reach Urena quickly. When she finally arrived at Urena's store, she was out of breath, her face pale with worry. "Urena, they have taken Obi to the council and called him a thief," Ifeoma exclaimed, her voice shaking. Urena felt as if the ground had been pulled from under her feet. "What? No, this can't be true," she gasped, dropping the vegetables she was arranging. Without wasting another moment, Urena gathered her skirts and ran towards the village council. Her mind raced with thoughts of Obi, the man she loved, now accused of a crime he did not commit. Tears streamed down her face as she pushed her way through the gathered crowd, desperate to see him. "Please let me see my husband," she begged the elders, her voice breaking with emotion. "He is innocent. My husband Obi will never steal. I've known him so well." But the elders were unmoved. The head of the council, Chief Eze, looked at her with stern eyes. "Go home, woman. You cannot visit him," he said coldly. Urena's heart sank. She knew that arguing further would not help Obi. Defeated, she turned and walked away, her shoulders shaking with silent sobs. The villagers watched her with mixed expression. Some felt pity, while others looked with disdain. Back at home, Urena waited anxiously for any news about Obie. Days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months. Each day, she went to the market, her face drawn and weary, trying to keep her mind off the troubles by walking. But the villagers' whispers and pointed finger followed her through everywhere she went. "That's the wife of the thief," they would say. "She must have known about his plans and supported him all along." Urena tried to ignore their cruel words, but they cut deep. Her only solace was the life growing inside her. She often sat by the window, gently caressing her swollen belly, talking to her unborn child. "Your father is a good man," she would whisper. "He is not a thief. One day we will be together again. I promise you, my love." As her pregnancy progressed, Urena found it harder to walk. Her body grew heavy and tired, and as she struggled with the physical demands of her body and her daily tasks, despite the hardship, she continued to sell vegetables at the market, determined to support herself and her unborn child. The day finally came when Urena went into labor. Ifeoma stayed by her side, offering comfort and support. The labor was long and difficult, and Urena's strength began to wane. But after many hours, she gave birth to a beautiful baby girl. The complications were severe, and Urena's body could not recover from them. As she lay in bed cradling her newborn daughter, Urena felt her life slipping away. With great effort, she looked into Ifeoma's tear-filled eyes. "Promise me, Ife, promise me you would look after my child," she whispered weakly. Ifeoma nodded, her heart breaking. "Urena, I promise. I will do my best to take care of her." And with a final labored breath, Urena closed her eyes and passed away. The room felt silent, save for the soft cries of the newborn baby. Ifeoma held Urena's daughter close, her mind reeling from the loss of her friend. The next morning, the midwife carried the baby to the council elders, as was customary in the village when a mother died in childbirth. The elders looked at the child with cold, hard eyes. "This child is an offspring of a thief," Eze declared harshly. "She should be thrown away." Ifeoma begged, cried and pleaded, but they ignored her pleas and dragged her away. The midwife pleaded with her eyes, but she knew better than to speak against the council's decision. With a sinking heart, she carried the baby to the edge of the village, towards the dark, dense forest that lay beyond. There, she placed the tiny girl on a soft patch of grass, wrapped in a thin cloth. The baby whimpered, her cries weak and pitiful. "I am so sorry, little one," the midwife whispered, tears streaming down her face. She kissed the baby's forehead before turning away, unable to bear the sight any longer. The forest was a place of mystery and danger, with towering trees that blocked out the sun and thick underbush that concealed many secrets. The villagers rarely ventured there, fearing the unknown creatures and spirits said to dwell within. It was in this unforgiving place that the baby girl was left, abandoned and alone. As night fell, the temperature dropped and the baby's cries grew louder, echoing through the forest. For 2 days and nights, the baby cried, her voice growing hoarse and weak. Her tiny body was cold and hungry. Her cries now mere whispers in the vast silent forest. It seemed as though hope had abandoned her as well. On the third day, as the sun began to rise, a woman named Nneka was returning to her village after visiting her mother in a neighboring town. Nneka was a kind and compassionate woman, known for her gentle heart and caring nature. As she walked along the edge of the forest, she heard a faint, pitiful sound. "What is that?" Nneka wondered aloud, stopping in her tracks. She listened carefully, and the sound came again, the weak, muffled cries of a baby. Nneka's heart skipped a beat. She followed the sound, pushing through the underbush until she found the tiny bundle lying on the ground. "Oh, you poor thing," Nneka exclaimed, kneeling beside the baby. She gently picked up the child, her eyes filled with tears at the sight of the weak and shivering infant. "Who could have done this to you?" The baby, feeling the warmth and comfort of Nneka's arms, stopped crying and looked up at her with wide, innocent eyes. Nneka held the baby close, wrapping her own shawl around the tiny body to provide for some warmth. "I won't leave you here," Nneka whispered, her voice filled with determination. "You will come home with me." With the baby safely in her arms, Nneka began the journey back to her village. She walked swiftly, eager to get the child to safety. As she walked, she thought about the cruel fate that had befallen this innocent baby and vowed to protect her no matter what. When Nneka finally reached her home, she immediately set to work, caring for the baby and bathed her in warm water, washing away the dirt and grime from her tiny body. She then fed the baby some milk, soothing her hunger and calming her cries. "I will call you Umisoma," Nneka said softly as she rocked the baby to sleep. "It means my kindness. You are a gift and I will love you as my own daughter." As Umisoma slept peacefully in Nneka's arms, the woman felt a deep sense of purpose. She knew that taking this abandoned child was the right thing to do, and she was determined to give Umisoma the love and care that she deserved. Nneka's home was filled with warmth and love as she embraced her new role as Umisoma's caregiver. From the moment she rescued the baby, Nneka dedicated herself to giving Umisoma a happy and healthy life. She often carried Umisoma on her back, securely wrapped in a colorful cloth, whether she was going to the market, working on the farm, or fetching water from the stream. Umisoma grew stronger and more vibrant with each passing day. Nneka sang lullabies to her, played with her, and told her stories of brave warriors and wise elders. The bond between them deepened, and Umisoma began to see Nneka as her real mother. The villagers noticed the beautiful, cheerful baby always at Nneka's side, and though they wondered about her origins, they saw how well Nneka cared for her and chose not to question it. One sunny afternoon, as Nneka and Umisoma returned from the market, a neighbor greeted them. "Nneka, you have taken care of that child. She is so lucky to have you." "Thank you," Nneka replied, smiling warmly. "Umisoma is a blessing to me." Despite the joy Umisoma brought into her life, Nneka's curiosity about the child's origin gnawed at her. She couldn't ignore the feeling that there was more to Umisoma's story. Determined to uncover the truth, Nneka decided to visit the neighboring village where she had found the baby. One day, leaving Umisoma in the care of a trusted friend, Nneka made her way to the village. The journey was long. As she walked, she wondered about the child's parents and what might have led to her abandonment. When she arrived, she approached a group of women gathered near a well. "Good afternoon," Nneka greeted them politely. "I am from the neighboring village. I have come to ask if anyone knows about a child who was abandoned near the forest some months ago." The women exchanged glances, and one of them, an older woman named Adaeze, stepped forward. "I remember hearing about that. There was a tragic story in our village not so long ago." Nneka listened intently as Adaeze recounted the tale of Obie and Urena. She learned about Obie's wrongful imprisonment, Urena's despair, and the harsh judgment of the council elders. When Adaeze described how Urena had died shortly after giving birth, Nneka's heart ached. The council elders declared the baby of an offspring of a thief and ordered her to be abandoned near the forest. Adaeze finished, her voice filled with sadness. Nneka's eyes welled up with tears. She now understood the full extent of the tragedy that had befallen Umisoma's family. Her mind raced with thoughts of Obi, who was still imprisoned, unaware of his wife's death and the fate of his daughter. "Thank you for telling me this," Nneka said, her voice trembling. Adaeze nodded, her own expression sympathetic. With a heavy heart, Nneka left the village, her mind now set on a new mission. She would care for Umesoma and find a way to help Obi. The journey back home felt even longer as she contemplated the challenges ahead, but she was determined. When she returned home, Nneka held Umesoma close, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. She whispered softly to the sleeping child, "You are loved, Umesoma. I promise to do everything I can to make sure you grow up surrounded by love." Many years passed, and Umesoma grew into a lively and cheerful child under Nneka's loving care. She had Nneka's warmth and kindness, and the villagers adored her. Nneka taught Umesoma the values of honesty and hard work and compassion. As Umesoma played with other children and helped Nneka with chores, she felt truly at home, though she often wondered about her past. One evening, as the sun set over the village, a loud commotion erupted near the market. It was Obi village. Villagers gathered, murmuring and pointing towards a man being dragged through the crowd. It was Chukwudi, his clothes tattered and his face bruised. He had been caught stealing yams from another farms. "Thief! Thief!" the villagers shouted angrily. "You must pay for this." Chukwudi struggled as they dragged him to the council hall, the same place where Obi had been unjustly condemned. The villagers' anger was palpable. They were fed up with the theft that had plagued their farms. Eze, the head elder, stood before the gathered villagers and looked at Chukwudi with disdain. "Chukwudi, what do you have to say for yourself?" he demanded. Chukwudi's face was filled with fear and regret. He knew that his lies had finally caught up with him. Trembling, he knelt before the council and confessed, begging them and hoping that his confession would make them set him free. "I lied about Obi. He is innocent. The yams I accused him of stealing were from my own theft. I have been the one stealing from the people's farms." A gasp of shock rippled through the crowd. The villagers couldn't believe what they were hearing. Obi, a man they had wrongfully condemned and imprisoned, was innocent all along. The realization hit them hard, and the murmurs of guilt and shame spread among them. Eze's face hardened. He turned to the other elders, who nodded in agreement. "We have made a grave mistake," Eze said solemnly. "Obi must be released immediately." Words of Chukwudi's confession spread quickly, reaching Nneka's ears as she returned from the market with Umesoma. Her heart leaped with hope. Finally, justice for Obi was within reach. She hurried home, her mind racing with the thought of what this could mean for Umesoma. That evening, the council elders gathered at the prison where Obi had spent years of his life. The prison was a bleak, cold place with thick stone and walls and iron bars that kept the light of hope at bay. When the guards opened Obi's cell, he looked up, his eyes filled with mixture of despair and conscious hope. "Obi," Eze said, his voice heavy with regret, "you are free to go. Chukwudi has confessed to the theft. We were wrong to have imprisoned you, and we are very sorry." Obi's heart pounded in his chest as he processed the words. "Free?" he whispered, barely able to believe it. "Yes, Obi, you are innocent. We deeply regret our mistake," Eze said, his voice wavering. With trembling hands, Obi stepped out of his cell. The sunlight felt foreign on his skin, and the words outside seemed almost unreal. As he walked through the prison gate, the villagers who had gathered outside looked at him with a mixture of guilt and relief. Obi stood in the middle of his once vibrant farm, now overgrown with weeds and neglected crops. The echoes of Urena's laughter and the dreams they had shared seemed like distant memories. The news of her death and the abandonment of their child weighed heavily on his heart. He was broken, his grief was profound, and he felt lost in the sea of despair. What do I do now? Obi wondered aloud, his voice choked with emotions. He dropped to his knee, clutching the earth beneath him, feeling the weight of his sorrow. Days passed, and Obi wandered through the village aimlessly, unable to find solace. He visited the places where he and Urena had shared their happiest moments, each memory a painful reminder of what he had lost. The villagers, seeing his broken state, kept their distance, unsure of how to approach him. One morning, as Obi sat outside his house, staring blankly at the horizon, he noticed a woman approaching. Her face was kind, and she walked with a sense of purpose. It was Nneka, and she had heard about the recent release of prisoners. Determined to find Obi, she had traveled to his village, hoping to bring him some semblance of peace. "Are you Obi?" she asked, her voice gentle yet firm. Obi looked up, his eyes filled with mixture of curiosity and sadness. "Yes, I am," he replied, his voice weary. Nneka stepped closer, her heart aching for the man before her. "I have something to show you," she said softly. Obi's heart skipped without a beat, a glimmer of hope flickering in his eyes. He followed Nneka without hesitation, his mind racing with possibilities. As they walked, Nneka spoke about the day she found the abandoned baby near the forest, how she had taken her in and raised her as her daughter. When they reached Nneka's home, she led Obi inside. The familiar warmth and love that filled the space comforted him. Umesoma was playing in the corner, her laughter filling the room. Nneka called out to her, and the little girl turned, her eyes widening with curiosity as she saw the stranger. "Mesoma, come," Nneka said, her voice filled with tenderness. She gently guided the child towards Obi. "Mesoma, my love, this is your father." Obi knelt down, his eyes welling up with tears as he looked at Mesoma. He saw Urena's futures in her, the same eyes, the same smile. His heart ached with joy and sorrow, realizing that a part of Urena still lived on in their daughter. "Hello, Mesoma," Obi said, his voice trembling. "I am your father." Mesoma looked at Nneka, seeking reassurance. Nneka nodded, and the little girl stepped closer to Obi. She hesitated for a moment before wrapping her small arms around his neck. Obi held her tightly, his tears flowing freely as he felt the weight of his grief begin to lift. Nneka watched the reunion, her heart swelling with happiness. She knew that this was the beginning of a new chapter for both Obi and Mesoma. They would face challenges, but they would face them together with the love and support of a new family. As the sun set outside, casting a warm glow over Nneka's home, Obi felt a sense of hope for the first time in many years. He looked at Nneka, his eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you so much. I can never repay you for your kindness," he whispered, his eyes full of emotion. Nneka smiled, her own eyes misty with tears. "Obi, you are welcome. You and Mesoma have a second chance. Let's make the most of it." Together, they sat down and shared a meal, the beginning of a new family formed by the bonds of love, resilience, and hope. Obi stayed with Nneka and Mesoma, finding solace in their presence. The wounds of the past began to heal slowly, replaced by the warmth and love of their new family, especially his daughter, Mesoma. Mesoma's laughter filled the house, and Obi found himself smiling more each day. "Mesoma, you are my joy," Obi whispered to his daughter one evening as he tucked her into bed. Mesoma giggled, hugging him tightly. "Good night, Papa," she said, her eyes twinkling. As the months passed, Nneka continued to support Obi in every way possible. She encouraged him to return to farming, knowing how much he loved the land. Together, they worked tirelessly to revive his old farms, planting crops and nurturing them with care. Obi's hand, once weary from the weight of despair, now worked with renewed strength and purpose. One sunny afternoon, as they stood side by side in the fields, Nneka turned to Obi. "You have done so well, Obi. The farm is thriving again," she said, pride evident in her voice. "Nneka, I couldn't have done this without you," Obi replied, his eyes filled with gratitude. Their bond grew stronger with each passing day, and the villagers began to notice the special connection between them. Despite the challenges they faced, Obi and Nneka found themselves drawn to each other in ways they hadn't expected. The shared responsibility of raising Mesoma and working in the farm brought them closer. Their affection blossomed into something deeper, a love that was pure and true. One evening, under the starry sky, Obi looked at Nneka and took her hand. "Nneka, you have given me hope. You have given me life and love when I had none. Please do me the honor of marrying me and completing my family," he said, his voice filled with sincerity. Tears of joy filled Nneka's eyes as she nodded. "Yes, Obi, I will marry you," she said, her heart overflowing with happiness. Their wedding was a simple yet beautiful affair, attended by the villagers who had come to respect and admire their resilience. The ceremony was filled with laughter, tears, and promises of a brighter future. After their marriage, Nneka and Obi continued to build their life together. Their farm flourished, providing them with abundant harvest and well-to-do life. And a few months later, Nneka discovered she was pregnant. Obi was excited to be a father again. He remembered the times Nneka had told him about her expecting a baby. The memories of her laughter lingered in his mind, but he knew he had to move on for the peace and sanity of himself, Nneka, and Mesoma. Later on, they were blessed with a baby boy, whom they named Chuki, meaning "God has done us well." Mesoma was thrilled to have a younger brother, and the family embraced their new addition with open arms. Life in the village of Owekele had come to a full circle for Obi. He had lost much but had gained so much more: a loving wife, two beautiful children, and a future filled with endless possibilities. The shadows of the past no longer haunted him, but the memories of his first love, Urena, lived on forever. The story teaches us several moral lessons: the power of resilience and hope in overcoming adversity, the importance of truth and justice, and the value of community support. It also highlights the transformative power of love and forgiveness, showing how healing can come from unexpected places and how new beginnings can arise from the ashes of tragedy. Finally, it underscores the significance of family, both by blood and by choice, in providing strength and purpose in the face of life's challenges. Thanks for watching this captivating story on African stories and folktales. Please don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell for more stories. Thank you.